Tessa Sue felt time slow the moment the tricycle slammed into her. It blasted out of the alley on her right. She only had time to register the blue lettering on its side reading, Margaret's Building Supply, before the impact tore her off the bike. She flew through the air, flipped once, and came down on the edge of the curb with her right leg taking the full force. She heard the snap. That sound she'd only ever heard in movies, but now it was real, inside her own body. Clean and final, like a dry branch stomped under a boot. Then her back hit the pavement, the back of her skull cracked against the asphalt, and white fireworks exploded behind her eyes. Late autumn evening. The streetlights weren't fully on yet, and the sky still held a smear of orange along the horizon. She lay there, her right leg bent at an angle that made her stomach lurch, pain surging up from below her knee like shards of broken glass rolling through her veins. She heard the engine. That tricycle engine, puttering and sputtering. It paused for one heartbeat, two, and then revved harder, fading, swallowed by the alley's darkness. He didn't get out. He didn't even look back. Tessa opened her mouth to scream for help, but only a weak whimper came out. Autumn winds scraped across her face, carrying dry leaves. A single sycamore leaf landed on her forehead, then blew away. She lay on that cold pavement, pain pulsing through her leg in waves, her vision blurring at the edges, consciousness slipping. She didn't know how long she lay there. She only remembered the streetlights flickering on, footsteps passing nearby, then fading. Passing. Fading. People saw her. No one stopped. Then, minute 10, or 15, she couldn't tell, a man in a yellow delivery uniform crouched beside her and shook her shoulder. Hey. Hey, are you okay? I'm calling an ambulance. Stay awake, okay? Stay with me. Tessa's consciousness was already dissolving, but she remembered that yellow jacket. The only person who stopped that night. She didn't know how far Kevin ran, or whether he was scared, or whether he felt any regret. She only knew the alley had cameras. The tricycle had a name on it. And her leg, she looked down and saw the impossible angle of it, and then everything went black. She woke to antiseptic burning her throat, white ceiling, beeping monitors. Her right leg was encased in heavy plaster, and the pain was so sharp it broke through the drugs and soaked her gown in cold sweat. Laura Lynn leaned over her, hair unwashed for days, eyes swollen to slits. Tessa, you're awake. Mom. Tessa's throat felt like sandpaper. What happened? Car accident. Compound fracture of your right leg. They did surgery to put in hardware. Laura's tears splashed onto Tessa's hand. The doctor said the surgery went well, but there might be permanent effects. Tessa was quiet for a moment. Then, where's the person who hit me? Laura's face crumpled. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. The door swung open. Margaret Sue stormed in, wearing a garish polo shirt, gold bangles clanking on her wrists, her voice shrill before she even reached the bed. Oh my God, my favorite niece. You're awake. You scared your aunt half to death. She dropped a bag of fruit on the nightstand, looked Tessa up and down, and clucked. Thank God your face is fine. A pretty girl like you, a scar would have been a tragedy. Tessa looked past her shoulder, through the doorway. Kevin Zhao stood there, black hoodie pulled low, hands in his pockets, slouching against the frame. His eyes darted everywhere except her face. Aunt Margaret, Tessa said, her voice steadier than she felt, Kevin hit me, didn't he? Margaret's smile flickered, then snapped back into place. Sweetheart, it was an accident. Your cousin was rushing to pick up his daughter from preschool, and he just... Rushing gives him permission to hit and run? Tessa held her gaze. I lay on that street for nearly 10 minutes. At least 7 people walked past me. Finally, a delivery driver called 911. Kevin didn't stop. He didn't even get out of the tricycle. Margaret's smile cracked. She scrambled to replace it with a wounded expression. He was terrified. He's just a kid, he's never seen anything like that before. Family looks after family, we can sort this out quietly. Laura shot to her feet. Margaret. My daughter's leg is shattered. The doctor said she might never walk properly again. And your son didn't even call for help. Don't yell at me. Margaret's voice went up an octave. Kevin was scared. He came straight home and told me everything, and we're here now, aren't we? It's not like anyone died. Anyone died? Laura was shaking, pointing at Tessa's cast. Look at her. Margaret planted her fists on her hips, gold clanking. I never said I wouldn't pay for it. Medical bills, lost wages, name your price. 5,000, 10, I don't care. Margaret Sue has money. She reached into her bag, pulled out a thick stack of bills, and slapped it onto the nightstand. Red notes scattered across the white sheets, some falling to the floor. Here's 10,000 to start. That should cover your rent for 6 months, right? That shoebox apartment of yours can't cost more than 2,000 a month. Tessa looked at the money on the bed. Then she looked at her aunt's face, the gold bangles, the smug tilt of the chin. Margaret wasn't offering help. She was offering charity. Open, naked, condescending charity. Let me give you some advice, Tessa. Margaret leaned in, conspiratorial. Riding a shared bike is dangerous. If you'd come to work for me like I always said, none of this would have happened. Tessa remembered every holiday dinner, Margaret holding court, announcing to the whole family, George, if Tessa can't find a decent job, she can always sweep floors at my store. 3,000 or 4,000 a month, better than scratching around in the city. Followed by that laugh. That knowing, dismissive laugh. She'd hated that laugh her whole life. Aunt Margaret, Tessa said quietly, and the room went still, Kevin has 3 points left on his license, doesn't he? Margaret's face shifted. Last New Year, you bragged at dinner about how many traffic violations he'd fixed, speeding, running red lights. Tessa's voice was flat, steady. He hit me and ran. That's felony hit and run. His license is already almost suspended. This time it's not just a suspension, he's looking at criminal charges. The color drained from Margaret's cheeks. Kevin straightened against the doorframe, mouth open, pale as paper. Tessa. Margaret lunged, grabbing her hand. Name your price. 20,000. 30. Your aunt will sell everything she owns. Tessa pulled her hand free. She watched her aunt's face twist with panic and thought, yesterday, the doctor told me I'll have metal rods in my leg for 2 years. Best case, I can walk. No running, no jumping. Rainy days will hurt. I'll probably limp when I'm old. I'm 25. My apartment is on the 6th floor with no elevator. The man who did this to me ran away without calling for help. And now his mother is standing here, offering cash to buy my future. Aunt Margaret, Tessa said softly, you said money's no problem for your family. So why are you stopping at 30? Margaret blinked. Tessa shifted her gaze to Kevin in the doorway, and spoke with deliberate clarity, Kevin, hit and run causing serious injury. Under Criminal Code Section 125.12, 3 to 7 years. Kevin's face went gray. Laura shoved Margaret backward. Get out. Get out of this room right now. Margaret stumbled out the door, but turned back one last time, eyes burning. You'll regret this, Tessa. You'll regret it. The room fell quiet. Just the monitor's steady beeping and Laura's muffled sobs. Tessa stared at the ceiling, and the tears finally came, silent, sliding sideways into her ears. She reached for her phone, the screen cracked, and scrolled to one name. Leo Zhou. Law school classmate. He'd joined a top firm in the city, specializing in personal injury and traffic cases. They hadn't spoken much after graduation, but she remembered him. He always sat in the back rows of the lecture hall, so quiet he was almost invisible. But every time she glanced up at the clock, her peripheral vision caught him in the corner. She typed, "Leo, I was hit by a family member. Hit and run. They want to settle. Help me." 30 seconds later, his call came through. "Tessa. How bad is it? Which hospital?" No small talk. Straight to business. "Compound leg fracture. Just out of surgery. County General." Her voice cracked. "My cousin hit me. My aunt offered 10,000 to make it go away." A pause. 2 seconds. 10,000? For felony hit and run? "Tessa, listen to me, call the police right now. Don't sign anything. Don't take a penny. I'll be there tomorrow morning." "Okay. One more thing." He paused again. "How do you feel?" She blinked. From the moment she woke up, through Margaret's whole performance, not one person had asked her that. "Hurts," she said. "I know." His voice dropped lower. "But you did the right thing. Call the police. Right now. Don't be afraid." Tessa hung up and dialed 911. 2 officers came to her room and took her statement. She gave them Kevin's name, his address, his phone number. By the time they left, dawn was breaking outside the window. She'd been awake all night. She opened the family group chat, the Sue family, 30-plus relatives. It had exploded. Margaret had posted, "Kevin accidentally bumped into Tessa. She's in the hospital, but she's fine. Nothing serious." Like he'd just stepped on her toe. The replies scrolled past, "Thank God, Kevin, be more careful next time, Margaret is so generous covering the bills." And Margaret, gracious as always, family looks after family. Tessa read every message. Her fingers trembled. She turned the phone face down on the pillow and closed her eyes. "Fine. If this is how family works, I'll settle accounts the family way." George Sue arrived at the hospital before dawn the next morning. 20 years in a factory, from apprentice to master machinist, had aged him well past his 50-odd years. He stood at his daughter's bedside, staring at the heavy cast on her right leg, his eyes reddening, but no words came. Just his calloused hand, brushing her hair in that clumsy way he'd always done. "I'm okay, Dad," Tessa said first. "Don't worry." George opened his mouth, closed it, nodded. By mid-morning, Margaret was back. She'd brought reinforcements, James Sue, Tessa's uncle, and their 80-year-old grandmother, Helen Wong. Tessa's stomach dropped the moment she saw Grandma Helen. The old woman barely left home these days, her knees were shot. Margaret had dragged her all the way here for one reason. Helen shuffled to the bed, took Tessa's hand, and burst into tears. "My sweet girl, you scared your grandmother half to death, you kids, always making us worry." Margaret slid a chair behind the old woman, helped her sit, then bent down and stage whispered, "Mom, tell Tessa it was just an accident. Kevin didn't mean any harm. But she's insisting on pressing charges, and Kevin is your grandson. If he goes to prison, Sophie loses her daddy. She's only 3 years old." Tessa nearly laughed. Margaret hadn't apologized. Hadn't offered restitution. She'd gone straight to emotional blackmail, weaponizing an old woman and a toddler. Helen squeezed Tessa's hand harder. "Sweetheart, I know you're hurting. But Kevin is your cousin, you two played together when you were little, families fight, but we work it out. Please, just drop the charges, let your aunt pay you something, and we can all move on." The old woman's hand was thin and knobby, but her grip felt impossibly heavy. Tessa looked into her grandmother's wrinkled face, felt the ache in her chest, and forced herself to speak gently. "Grandma, it's not that I don't want to listen. But Kevin broke the law. He hit me and he ran. The police have already filed charges, I can't just unfile them." "Of course you can." Margaret cut in. "Just tell the cops it was a misunderstanding. They'll let it go." Tessa, I'll give you 30,000. 30. That's a down payment on an apartment in this city. 30,000. Tessa smiled coldly. Kevin's building supply store cleared 10 times that in a good year. 30 was pocket change to Margaret Sue. And her leg, her future, was worth exactly that much in her aunt's eyes. Aunt Margaret, Tessa said, lifting her chin, why didn't Kevin call an ambulance? Margaret flinched. He panicked, he's just a kid. He's 31. 6 years older than me. Tessa held her gaze. An adult who hits someone and drives away, what exactly is there to forgive? Margaret's mask finally shattered. She straightened up, looked down her nose at Tessa. Last chance. Are you dropping this or not? No. Margaret wheeled on George. You're just going to let her do this. Control your daughter. George had been standing in the corner, fists clenched, silent. When his sister screamed at him, he actually flinched. Margaret. Tessa's leg. It's just a broken leg. Margaret shrieked. She'll heal. You want Kevin to go to prison over this? Where's your family loyalty? Mom's still alive, and you're doing this to your own nephew? George's face went red, his lips trembling, but no words came. Tessa watched her father shrink, and something inside her chest cracked. This man had been crushed by Margaret his whole life. As children, he deferred. As adults, he retreated. Every holiday, every family gathering, he was there to be bossed around, belittled, measured against her success. He'd never said no. Not once. Margaret ran this family with 2 weapons, money and seniority. She had money, so she had a voice. She was the eldest, so everyone deferred. George had been beaten down so long, he'd forgotten how to stand. But Tessa hadn't. Aunt Margaret, she said, her voice soft but cutting through the room like a knife, screaming at my dad won't change anything. I reported the crime. I called the police. If you have a problem, take it up with me. Margaret stared at her for a long time, like she was seeing her niece for the first time. Then she nodded slowly, coldly. Fine. Have it your way. Don't come crying later. She grabbed Helen's arm and hauled her toward the door. Helen looked back over her shoulder, tears streaming, muttering, what a tragedy, what a tragedy. The room went silent. Tessa lay back against her pillow, one tear sliding into her hairline. She picked up her phone. Leo had messaged 10 minutes ago, I'm in the hospital parking lot. What room? She sent the number, then closed her eyes. The real fight started today. Leo Zhou pushed open the door, and Tessa almost didn't recognize him. The man in her memory was a skinny, stoop-shouldered kid in black-rimmed glasses and faded plaid shirts, hair too long, disappearing into the back rows of the lecture hall. He never went to parties, never joined clubs, never spoke unless called on. He aced every exam but no one knew his name. Tessa's only impression of him, he sat behind her. Like a houseplant. The man at the door was something else entirely. Tailored charcoal suit. Crisp white shirt, buttons all the way up. Gold-rimmed glasses that made him look sharp as a blade. A briefcase in one hand, a bouquet of flowers in the other. His eyes swept the room once, landed on her cast, and his brow furrowed. How bad is the leg? He set the flowers on the nightstand, pulled up a chair, sat down. No small talk. No, how are you feeling? Compound tib-fib fracture. Internal fixation. Best case, I'll walk again, but no running, no jumping. Rainy days will hurt. Old age might mean a limp. She recited the doctor's words like a script. Leo pulled out a notebook and pen. The driver is your cousin. Tessa told him everything, Kevin hitting her, Kevin running, the delivery driver calling 911, Margaret's cash offer, the grandmother ambush. When she got to the part about Margaret slapping $10,000 on the nightstand, Leo's pen stopped moving. What did she say? exactly. He looked up. Tessa hesitated, then repeated it. She said my shoebox apartment couldn't cost more than $2,000 a month. Leo's pen pressed into the paper, leaving a dent. But he didn't look up, just kept writing. When she finished, he studied his notes for a full minute. Then he raised his head. First thing you did was right. He held up a finger. Kevin committed felony hit and run. That's a criminal case, your aunt can't wish it away even if you wanted to. The prosecutor decides, not you. Second finger. Now you do 3 things. 1. Cooperate fully with the investigation. 2. Get a disability evaluation ASAP, you're looking at level 9 at minimum. 3. Document everything. Every conversation, every text. If she comes back, record her. Call security if you have to. His voice was calm and absolute. No hedging, no maybe. Tessa felt something unclench in her chest. Third. He closed the notebook and looked at her directly. You weren't like this in college. She blinked. What? College you, he said quietly, never said no to anyone. He stood up, picked up his briefcase, walked to the door. Paused. Looked back. Get some rest. The door clicked shut. Tessa stared at it, and a smile crept across her face without her permission. She remembered something. All through college, she sat in the 4th row by the window, because the light was good. She never noticed who sat behind her. But now she remembered, every time she turned around after class to talk to someone, there'd be a guy in the back row, packing his bag slowly, like he was always waiting for her to leave first. She shook the thought away. Not now. The family chat exploded exactly as Leo predicted. Margaret posted voice messages, sobbing dramatically. Friends and family, Kevin accidentally bumped into Tessa, and we offered to pay, 10, 20,000, but she wants to send her own cousin to prison. Kevin lost his job, his little girl cries for him every night, how can someone be so cruel? The comments rolled in like a tide. Tessa's gone too far. George needs to control his daughter. Kids these days have no family values. 20-something relatives, not a single voice in her defense. No one mentioned that Kevin had fled the scene. No one asked how Tessa was feeling. No one cared about her broken leg. Tessa read every message. Then she put the phone down and said nothing. She understood now. Her leg didn't matter. Margaret's reputation mattered. Because Margaret had money. Because Margaret had clout. Right and wrong were irrelevant, only power mattered. This was the family she'd been born into. The next day Margaret came back with a new approach, all smiles, a bag of vitamins. Tessa, I've been thinking. 30,000, cash, and you write a letter saying it was all a misunderstanding. We're done, we move on, everyone's happy. Tessa said nothing. Margaret leaned in, voice dropping. Sweetheart, be smart. Your dad's factory is laying people off. You think he needs the whole town whispering about his daughter tearing the family apart? Tessa's heart clenched. A threat, wrapped in concern. Naked and ugly. The case is already filed, she said flatly. If you want to talk about settlement, talk to my lawyer. Margaret's smile froze. You hired a lawyer? A friend. Pro bono. Margaret's face went cold. She stood up, swept her bag off the nightstand. You're making a big mistake. And remember, your grandmother's health is fragile. If something happens to her, you'll be the one the family blames. When she was gone, Tessa ordered a recording pen. The next day, Laura came to the hospital 2 hours late, her eyes swollen. Tessa saw it instantly. Mom. What happened? Laura tried to smile. Nothing, traffic was bad. Mom. Turn around. Laura turned, and the tears broke. Your grandmother. Margaret put her in a nursing home. She's telling everyone you made Helen sick, that you're an ungrateful brat, the neighbors are gossiping about your dad. Tessa closed her eyes. 3 weapons: money, pressure, reputation. Margaret had aimed at the weakest point. George Sue cared more about his name than anything else in the world. She opened her eyes. I have a plan. She called Leo. Margaret put my grandmother in a home and she's spreading lies about us. Legally, what do I have? Pause. Elder neglect, defamation, and your grandmother's land compensation money. The $20,000 from the homestead buyout. Do you know where that is? Tessa froze. 3 years ago, the old family property had been taken by the city for development. Margaret handled the paperwork, said the money was Helen's retirement fund, deposited in a special account. Everyone forgot about it. Your aunt's sudden interest in controlling your grandmother, Leo said slowly, might not just be about pressure. Check that money. Laura gasped. The passbook was in your grandmother's old cabinet. Margaret went back there last week to pick up some things. Mom, Tessa cut in, go back to the house. Find that passbook. If it's gone, check the bank. That evening Laura called back, her voice shaking. The passbook's gone. The bank said the money was drained over 2 years. The last withdrawal was last month. Who took it? Margaret. Laura was almost screaming. 20,000, all of it. Tessa's grip tightened on the phone. Send me the bank records. Keep the originals. Don't tell Grandma, don't warn Margaret. She forwarded the evidence to Leo. 10 minutes later, embezzlement. Combined with the hit and run, she's cornered. Sit tight. Don't show your hand yet. Tessa stared at the ceiling, and for the first time in days, she felt something like peace. She finally had a card to play. Margaret's next move came faster than expected. She sent Connie Lou, Tessa's aunt-in-law, as a concerned visitor, accompanied by a distant cousin. Connie walked in with 2 cartons of milk, her face all sympathy. Oh, Tessa, you've lost so much weight, you poor thing. Tessa noticed Connie's phone on the table, screen lit up. A call was in progress. The contact photo was a woman's profile, Margaret's WeChat avatar. A walking wiretap. Aunt Connie, you didn't have to come, Tessa said, smiling politely. Connie sat down, took her hand. Sweetheart, you really should be more careful on those bikes. I was hit, Aunt Connie. Kevin hit me and ran. Connie's smile flickered. Kevin's usually so careful, he must have panicked. Sweetheart, we're family. You can't just send your own cousin to jail. Aunt Connie, Tessa interrupted, how many points did Kevin have left on his license when he hit me? You heard him brag at dinner last year, speeding tickets, red lights, the whole list. Connie opened her mouth, closed it. Since the accident, Tessa continued, has Kevin said he's sorry? Not once. Margaret came to this room 5 times and every time she talked about money, 10, 20, 30,000, like she was haggling at a market. Did she ever ask me if I was in pain? The distant cousin piped up, Tessa, your aunt's been good to you. She gave you a red envelope when you started college. $600, Tessa said flatly. In exchange for my dad moving her entire inventory, 6 in the morning until 10 at night. She didn't even offer him lunch. He threw his back out and couldn't work for 2 days. The cousin went silent. I was 15 when she made me work her store for 2 weeks and paid me nothing. I swallowed it. 18, she told everyone my university wasn't good enough. I swallowed it. 22, she said my boyfriend was poor and I'd be a waste of a dowry. Tessa looked at Connie, and her voice dropped to a whisper. But this time, she's asking me to trade my leg for her son's freedom. Would you make that trade? Connie's face went white. She grabbed her bag and fled. The family chat exploded again. Margaret posted voice messages, Tessa didn't listen, but she read the transcript, the boyfriend I told you about, he was no good, and I was right, wasn't I? You're not with him anymore. Tessa left the chat. Permanently. The next morning Leo showed up with a file. The accident report is final. Kevin is at fault, speeding, failure to yield, hit and run. Zero liability on your side. The criminal case is moving forward. Get the disability evaluation done ASAP. He opened another file. Your grandmother's money, you have the evidence? Tessa handed over her folder. Bank statements, timeline. 17 withdrawals over 2 years. Leo flipped to a page, stopped. 6,000 last March. Remember anything? Tessa's eyes went wide. Kevin bought a new car. Margaret bragged about it in the chat. 20 grand, she said. Leo nodded slowly. So she used Grandma's retirement money to buy her son a car. He flipped another page. And the tricycle that hit you, registered to Margaret's business. Her vehicle, her liability, plus embezzled funds. 2 cases, 1 target. She wasn't just covering for Kevin, Tessa said. She was covering for herself. Leo's mouth curved, barely. 2 recommendations. 1. Civil suit against both Kevin and Margaret, vehicle owner liability. 2. Report the embezzlement on your grandmother's behalf. It's normally a private prosecution, but with this much evidence, the police might take it. Tessa read through the documents he'd prepared, bank records, business filings, timelines, Laura's signed statement. Meticulous. Unassailable. She looked up at him, and her eyes burned. Leo, thank you. He paused in his packing. You can pay me when you win. He walked to the door, didn't turn back. Tessa. You used to be different. Different how? College you, he said quietly, never said no to anyone. The door closed. Tessa stared at it for a long moment, and then something in her smiled. The soft spine she'd carried all her life had broken on that street corner, along with her leg. Now something harder was growing back. The day the accident report was finalized, Kevin was arrested. Margaret posted a voice message in the family chat, her voice cracking. Kevin's been detained. Are you happy, Tessa? I hope you're happy. You've destroyed this family. Tessa listened once, then opened her contacts and called the nursing home. This is Helen Wang's granddaughter. I'd like to visit tomorrow. And I need to speak with the director. The next morning, rain drizzled down as Laura wheeled Tessa into Golden Years nursing home. Peeling paint, rusted gates. The director, Mr. Chien, 50s, beer belly, practiced smile, froze when he saw the wheelchair. Mr. Chien, I need my grandmother's admission contract and payment records, Tessa said without preamble. The contract bore only Margaret's signature. Monthly fees were listed as paid from residence pension. The inventory of Helen's possessions at admission, a few old clothes. Payment records showed a $2,000 deposit paid by Margaret, monthly fees deducted from Helen's social security card, and an outstanding charge of $4,800 for special care, listed under Margaret's name. Tessa photographed everything. Margaret embezzled $20,000 from my grandmother's retirement account. I've already filed a police report. This deposit she paid, I have reason to believe it came from that money. If there are any future payment issues, contact me, not Margaret. Mr. Chien went pale, nodded frantically, and had the stamped records printed within minutes. In the back courtyard, Helen sat on a bench in the drizzle, a thin blanket over her knees, staring at the rain. When she saw Tessa, her face lit up with surprise, then crumpled with worry at the cast. Sweetheart. What happened to your leg? Tessa took her grandmother's hand. I'm fine, Grandma. Almost healed. Helen fussed, Margaret said you fell, the food here is terrible, the room is damp. I told her I want to go home, but she says the pipes are broken at the house. Tessa, when can your father come get me? Tessa's heart cracked. Helen had no idea. No idea about Kevin, no idea about the stolen money. She just wanted to go home. Grandma, stay a little longer. I'll come get you soon, I promise. Helen searched her eyes. Tessa, did Margaret do something wrong? Tessa almost told her. But she couldn't lay that on an 80-year-old woman. Not yet. No, Grandma. Tell me about when you were young. Helen's face softened, and she started talking, her wedding day, the sedan chair, the feast. Tessa listened, holding her grandmother's knobby hand, and any last hesitation vanished. Margaret had stolen Helen's entire retirement. Dumped her in a decrepit home. This wasn't family. This was predation. When they left, the rain had stopped. Tessa spotted a white sedan in the parking lot, Kevin's new car. The one bought with stolen money. She photographed it and sent it to Leo, Margaret's car. Parked at the nursing home. Timeline matches, he replied. Now go to the police station. Bring your father's authorization, Grandma's ID, the bank records, the nursing home contract. Everything. Tessa pocketed her phone. Mom, we're going to the police station. Laura didn't ask why. Just said, okay, and pushed. An hour later, Tessa sat in the Chingguan police station. Sergeant Wu, a sharp-faced woman in her 40s, reviewed the documents. Your aunt took 20,000 from your grandmother's account without permission. Without knowledge. My grandmother had no idea. My father is her legal co-guardian, here's his authorization. Wu flipped through more pages. And the money was used for personal expenses? 6,000 last March, coinciding with a new car purchase for the son. Wu looked up at the young woman in the wheelchair, heavy cast, but eyes like flint. This is remarkably well organized. I have a good lawyer. Wu typed for a moment, then, I'm filing this. Embezzlement. Tessa left the station under clearing skies. She exhaled for the first time in days. Her phone buzzed, filed. Yes. A pause, then, good. I'm drafting the civil complaint. And Tessa, you're doing great. Tessa smiled through tears. Then she opened the family chat and posted. Everyone. Today I filed a police report against Margaret Sue for embezzling Grandma's 20,000 retirement fund. The case is now open. This is separate from Kevin's hit-and-run case. If anyone wants evidence, I have bank records. If anyone wants to defend Margaret, this is a criminal case now. It's not up to me. It's up to the law. 3 minutes of absolute silence. Then an explosion. James Sue, 20,000. What 20,000? Second aunt, Margaret took Grandma's money. Connie Liu, who defended Margaret days earlier, now wrote, I always wondered how she spent so freely. The tide had turned. Tessa closed the chat, leaned back in her wheelchair, and closed her eyes. Margaret, your time is up. That night Margaret called directly. Not through the group chat, not through a messenger. Her voice was unrecognizable, no bluster, just shaking, sobbing, desperate. Tessa, please. Kevin's been in jail for 3 days. Sophie can't stop crying. Kevin's wife took the baby and went to her mother's house, my family is falling apart. Just drop the charges, please. I'll beg you on my knees. Tessa hit record. Before you get on your knees, Aunt Margaret, tell me one thing, where did Grandma's 20,000 go? The crying stopped dead. What 20,000? The land compensation. 20,300. 17 withdrawals over 2 years. Last withdrawal last month, 2,500. Tessa's voice was calm, like reading a grocery list. I have the bank records. The police have the case. You can talk to me now, or you can talk to them later. 10 seconds of heavy breathing. Then Margaret exploded, you're destroying me. You're trying to destroy me. How much do you want, just name it. I recorded that, Tessa said. Talk to my lawyer. She hung up and sent the file to Leo. He replied, beautiful. The next day the relatives called one by one. Margaret smashed James's furniture. The whole family is a mess. James himself called, Tessa, can't you show some mercy? Just let her pay the money back. Tessa replied calmly, James, the money is gone. 6,000 bought Kevin's car. The rest she spent. Grandma's nursing home bill is still unpaid. What exactly should I show mercy to? She offered me 30,000 and she can't even pay 4,800 she owes the nursing home. Tell me, what would you do? James went silent. Finally, you're right. Do what you have to. Tessa put down the phone. She didn't need anyone's permission. She had the evidence. She had the law. 3 days later Leo arrived. The prosecutor approved Kevin's indictment. He pointed to the file. Your disability evaluation sealed it, level 9. Hit and run means 3 to 7 years, no parole. Tessa's hands shook as she read the stamp on the indictment. The civil complaint is ready too. He slid another document across. Defendants, Kevin Zhao and Margaret Su, vehicle owner liability. Medicals, lost wages, care, disability compensation, pain and suffering, future treatment. Total. He named the number. Tessa's eyes went wide. Every item is substantiated. He walked her through the breakdown. Each figure backed by receipts or actuarial tables. She looked at him, and her throat tightened. How long did you spend on this? His hands stilled. It's my job. You haven't charged me. Consider it professional practice. He gathered his things. At the door, Margaret's embezzlement case is moving to prosecution too. 2 cases at once, she's got nowhere to run. He left. Tessa watched the sun break through the clouds and smiled for the first time in weeks. 2 days later Leo called with more news. Margaret's business applied for dissolution. She's scared, Leo said. She knows both cases will drain her finances. She's trying to hide assets before the court seizes them. Tessa remembered something. Years ago she lost money on a spa investment. But her store seemed fine. You're smarter than your aunt. Leo's voice dropped. I checked her tax filings. She's been underreporting revenue for years, right at the small business exemption threshold. But her store clears 6 figures annually. Tax evasion. Report her. Already prepared, Leo said. Financials, social media showing her spending, cars, renovations, vacations. I'm mailing it tomorrow. Tessa laughed. Did you know about this from the start? A good lawyer knows how to dig. There was a pause. Then she asked, Leo. Why are you doing all this? Long silence. She thought the line had dropped. Then his voice came back, softer than usual. Do you remember freshman debate? She blinked. You said, law looks cold, but it's not. It doesn't favor the strong or the weak. It favors the right side. If you stand straight, you don't have to be afraid of anyone. He paused. I was in the audience. I never forgot it. The line went dead. Tessa stared at the phone, stunned. Leo never attended extracurriculars. He never did anything unrelated to academics. But he'd been at that debate. She pressed the phone to her chest and felt her heartbeat through the casing. A smile spread across her face, unsummoned. Mid-November. Kevin's trial. Tessa sat as plaintiff, cast removed, using a single crutch. White shirt, ponytail, no makeup. She was calm. The gallery was packed with relatives. Margaret sat in the front row on the left, hunched in a faded coat, gray and hollow. Beside her, Kevin's wife held their 3-year-old daughter. The little girl asked, "Where's Daddy?" The wife didn't answer. Kevin entered in a yellow jumpsuit, shaved head, gaunt. When he saw his family, his lips trembled. He dropped his gaze to the floor. The trial was straightforward. The prosecutor presented the accident report, medical records, surveillance footage, witness statements. All pointing to one conclusion: Kevin drove an unregistered tricycle, sped through a blind turn, hit a pedestrian, and fled. Leo rose to speak for the plaintiff. The courtroom went quiet. He didn't look at notes, he spoke from memory, his voice steady, every piece of evidence threaded into a seamless argument. Kevin's violations. Tessa's injuries. The legal basis for compensation. He cited the Supreme Court's sentencing guidelines and recommended the maximum penalty. When he sat down, the judge's case file sat beside Leo's submitted brief, dense with annotations. Kevin's lawyer stammered through the usual lines: first offense, willing to compensate. At the second phrase, the judge looked up, the meaning plain: you're in court now. Where's the compensation? Final statement. Kevin turned to Tessa. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Finally, cousin. I'm sorry, his voice cracked. Tears welled. In the gallery, Margaret sobbed. Kevin's wife broke down. The little girl, frightened, wailed. The courtroom echoed with crying. Tessa sat in the plaintiff's chair and watched it all. She'd waited so long for those 3 words. But she felt nothing. Because she knew, this wasn't remorse. This was a courtroom performance. If there was no prison sentence waiting, Kevin and Margaret would never have said those words. The judge adjourned. Outside the courthouse, autumn sunlight fell on golden ginkgo leaves. Leo walked up behind Tessa and draped his jacket over her shoulders. She barely noticed the gesture until it was done. It's cold, he said, not looking at her. She glanced at the gray wool on her shoulders and almost smiled. Thanks. Margaret shuffled past them, paused at Tessa's side. Her lips moved, but no words came. Tessa turned to meet her gaze. 2 seconds. Then Margaret walked on, hunched, gray roots showing under thinning hair. Tessa watched her disappear. Leo, she said quietly, did I go too far? No. His voice was calm. You used legal remedies available to every citizen. You didn't lie. You didn't exaggerate. If that's too far, then the law itself is too far. She laughed softly. You're really good at this, you know. Just stating facts. But his ears were red. 1 week later, Kevin Zhao convicted of felony hit and run. 4 years 6 months. 52,000 in restitution. The judgment specifically noted, hit and run, egregious circumstances, no parole. Tessa read the judgment 3 times in Leo's office. Then she leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes, and breathed out. No tears. No triumph. Just the bone-deep release of a long, dark tunnel finally ending. She stood and offered her hand. Thank you, counselor. He shook it, the right pressure, a second longer than strictly professional. Tessa, he said, when you're fully healed, dinner's on me. I thought I was paying. I changed my mind. He busied himself with papers, moving too fast. Lawyers treating clients is standard practice. She laughed at the door. I'll hold you to that. Behind her, a small cough. Early December. Margaret's embezzlement trial. Tessa didn't attend, her physical therapy had reached a critical stage, first attempt at walking. She stayed at the rehab center. The therapy room was flooded with sunlight. Tessa gripped the parallel bars, Claire Chin crouched beside her. Slow. Heel first. Walk well before you walk fast. Tessa's right leg was thinner than her left, muscle-wasted, skin pale. A dark red scar ran down her shin like a centipede. Every step sent needles through her bones. But she moved. 5 meters took 10 minutes. By the end, her gown was soaked. Her phone buzzed. Leo's voice, Margaret convicted. Embezzlement. 1 year suspended, 2 years probation. Restitution of $20,000 plus $3,000 in damages. Tessa held the phone and said nothing. Sunlight lay across the wooden floor. She remembered Helen sitting in the nursing home, saying with such faith, "Margaret is taking care of my money." The money was coming back. But the family would never be the same. "Send me the judgment photo," she said. She posted it to the family chat. "Grandma's money is coming back." Court order. Silence, then a flood of responses. Good. Justice. Finally. Tessa closed the chat. Mid-December, tax audit. Margaret's building supply owed $87,000 in back taxes, penalties, and interest. Margaret couldn't pay. The store was seized. Connie Lou posted a video, tax seals across the rolled metal door. Margaret stood on the curb in a frayed coat, staring at her life's work. Alone. No husband, no son, no daughter-in-law, no granddaughter. Just her and a dead leaf blowing past. Tessa watched 3 times, then turned off the screen. No joy. Just one thought, if you'd left Grandma $1, I would have let the rest go. She didn't say it aloud. Margaret's collapse wasn't Tessa's doing. It was the inevitable result of decades of selfishness. Late December. Tessa walked with a cane now. Still limping, but walking. Laura watched from the therapy room window, wiping tears on her sleeve. That night Tessa wrote in her journal, "Leg is getting better. So is life." She texted Leo, "Counselor, I'm ready for that dinner." 10 seconds later, Saturday, 6. The Sycamore. Tables booked. Tessa smiled. The Sycamore was a famous private kitchen, you needed 2 weeks' notice. Leo had booked it weeks ago. Waiting for her. She typed back, "Okay." Outside, the first snow of winter began to fall. A Saturday evening. Tessa stood outside the hospital in a camel coat, light makeup, lipstick. The cane was her only giveaway. A black car pulled up, and Leo rolled down the window, no suit, navy sweater, black jacket, hair looser than usual. "Get in," he said, scanning her. "You look good." "So do you." "Different." "Different how?" "Better." She said it plainly. His ears flushed as he pulled into traffic. The Sycamore was warm, candlelit. They sat by the window, snow falling outside. Tessa told him about Laura joining a community law class, George being respected at work for the first time. Leo listened, placed a rib on her plate. "Your dad's lucky," he said. "You stood up for both of them." "What about your parents? Do they know about all this?" "My mom," he said. She said, "Leo, are you in love with this girl?" Pro bono work isn't legal aid, it's peacock strutting. Tessa choked on her soup. "Your mom said that." "High school English teacher." He sighed. "My dad said 3 words, hurry up." She laughed until she had to wipe her eyes. Then she looked at him, serious. "And you? Is your mom right?" The restaurant's guitar version of Canon filled the candlelit room. Snow fell harder. Leo didn't flinch. "Tessa. I sat behind you every day freshman year. You carried a blue thermos with a panda sticker. You wore a white puffer jacket in winter and a red scarf. Before exams, you loaned your notes to your roommate and recopied them by hand. Once in torts, the professor called on you and you got the answer wrong, you blushed for the whole lecture." She stared. She'd forgotten all those details. But he'd remembered every one. "You never told me. Because you didn't need to know then." His eyes held hers. "You need to know now." She looked down at the rib on her plate. Then she remembered, all through college, every time she loaned her notes, more complete notes appeared in her bag. Every rainy day, an unclaimed umbrella appeared at the library entrance. Every time she queued in the dining hall, Leo was always a few places ahead. She'd never thought twice. There's no such thing as that many coincidences, she said quietly. Exactly. She picked up her tea, held it like a toast. So, counselor, when do you formally confirm this client relationship? Now. He touched his cup to hers. If you accept. She drank. Osmanthus oolong, sweet and warm. Accepted. Outside, snow. Inside, warmth. And something new, steady, unbreakable. 3 days before Lunar New Year, Tessa and her parents went to the nursing home. She didn't need the cane anymore, still stiff at speed, but no one would notice. Helen waited on the bench, a small bundle beside her, hair neatly combed. She rose when she saw them, face splitting into a smile. Grandma, Tessa said, you're coming home. Helen smelled the osmanthus cakes Tessa handed her, and wept. Home. Home for New Year. Tessa paid the outstanding care bill. Director Chien protested. Miss Sue, this isn't your debt. Margaret owes me. Not you. He watched her walk out. I've been in this business 15 years, he said, and I've never seen anyone handle a family mess like you. Tessa didn't answer. Only she knew the cost of that steadiness, the sleepless nights, the endless therapy, the courtroom face-off with her own blood. That wasn't letting go. That was pulling out thorns one by one and closing the wounds herself. New Year's Eve. The old house table was loaded, ribs, fish, sticky rice cakes. Helen wore the red jacket Tessa had bought, red clip in her hair. George opened a bottle of liquor and raised his glass, struggled for words. This year was hard. It's over. Next year, better. His voice cracked. Halfway through dinner, Tessa's phone buzzed. She stepped into the courtyard. Leo? Happy New Year. Fireworks popped in his background. My mom asked again. Asked what? When she can meet you. Tessa leaned against the brick wall, cold at her back but warm in her chest. What did you say? I said, his voice lowered, it depends on her schedule. She laughed, bright and clear in the freezing air. A golden firework burst overhead, painting the courtyard in light. Happy New Year, Leo. Happy New Year, Tessa. She went back inside. Dumplings, laughter, warm light. She bit into one, leek and egg, taste of home. She wasn't the girl who hid anymore. She was the woman who'd walked into court on a broken leg and won. Spring. Tessa drove Leo's car to the ancestral cemetery with her parents and grandmother. George cleared weeds from the grave. Laura arranged offerings. Helen murmured prayers to the dead. Tessa knelt and touched her forehead to the earth. When she rose, she saw another grave nearby, Margaret's in-laws' plot. Overgrown, untended. Margaret didn't come, Laura said. She can't, George said, clearing a weed. The store's gone. Kevin's inside. She has no face to show. Connie had posted photos, Margaret in a worn coat, eating boxed lunch outside a building supply market. The 20,000 restitution had reached 5. Tessa, Helen said abruptly, how much has she paid back? 5. 15 left. Helen was silent for a while. Then, when it's all paid, have your father bring her for dinner. George and Laura froze. Mom. She's your sister. Helen's voice was frail but absolute. She did wrong and she's paying for it. I can't forgive her. But I won't hate her either. At my age, you learn, hate only hurts yourself. Helen walked slowly to the car, back straight. George stood at the grave, rain dripping from his hat. He pulled the last weed, stood, and said, your grandmother's right. On the way back, Tessa scrolled to Margaret's social media. One photo, a bowl of plain noodles, disposable chopsticks, a rental kitchen with only soy sauce and salt. Tessa stared at it. She felt nothing. Not forgiveness. Not anger. Margaret had stopped mattering. That was real freedom. Not forgetting. Not forgiving. Just not carrying her anymore. May. A park bench. Cherry blossoms gone, sycamores brilliant green. Tessa had abandoned her cane completely. Leo handed her an invitation, a legal symposium. They wanted her as a speaker. If you're willing, he said. She looked at the card. A year ago, she'd been in that hospital bed, in pain, threatened, alone. Now they wanted her to tell her story to others. What would you want me to say? She asked. How you stood up, Leo said. In every sense. June. Airport arrivals. Leo waited in a blue shirt, sleeves rolled. Tessa walked out of baggage claim, white dress, low heels, hair cropped to her shoulders. No cane. Her gait was almost normal. She saw him, smiled, crossed the concourse. Steady, he said. Claire says no one can tell I was hit. Her phone buzzed. Laura, Margaret paid the last of it. All of it. She had the court give you a note. The photo showed a crumpled piece of paper, ballpoint scrawl. Tessa, the money is fully repaid. I'm sorry. Your aunt was wrong. 12 words. No excuses. No, but. No, you should have. Just 12 words. Tessa stood in the afternoon sun and read them again. She remembered Margaret in the hospital shouting, "It's just a broken leg." Remembered her screaming in court. Remembered the bowl of noodles. She would never have guessed, a year ago, that Margaret would sit in a rented kitchen and write those 12 words. Leo glanced at it. She had no legal obligation to apologize. The judgment only required repayment. So, some of those words are real. Tessa pocketed the phone. She slipped her arm through his. Let's go home. He didn't ask. Just matched her pace. At the door, she glanced back once, through the glass, the terminal, the crowds. Then she turned forward and didn't look again. Sunlight stretched their shadows long. Her right leg planted steady with each step. Leo walked beside her, his shirt lifting in the breeze. The city skyline blazed ahead. Tessa remembered what her surgeon had said, broken bones heal stronger. The new bone is thicker, denser, able to bear more weight. That wasn't just orthopedics. She looked down at her right leg. Then up into the June light. And walked forward. Every step solid. Every step hers.